Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I am your host, Jason Osborn, and on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons they've learned and share them with you as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and get sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. It's Jason A. Osborn, and the link off to my LinkedIn profile will be in the show notes below. On today's show, our guest is Paul Sams. He's the managing partner at Dutton Gregory Solicitors, helping to find improbable solutions to seemingly impossible problems. I love that kind of tagline that you have there. So welcome to the show, Paul. And I want to ask you a question to start off with, something I always ask. And the question is this: if you were to somehow be able to travel back in time to when you were just starting off owning a business, maybe Dutton Gregory, or maybe something else that you had done before that, what's the biggest piece of advice that you would give your younger self just starting off in business?
Apart from, well, thank you for having me on, Jason. Apart from
Yeah.
investing in Amazon when it was a startup, I think it would be, in all honesty, that you're not going to please everyone all of the time. And making decisions isn't about right or wrong, it's the least worst decision. We are brought up as human beings when we're very young to be told that there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, when in reality, there's a bad guy and a worse guy. So you've got to pick which way you're going to do it. So I think that would be the biggest tip of don't worry. You're going to upset some people along the way unintentionally. You're not intending to do that. No one wants to do that. But you're going to make some decisions that are going to be unpopular at times.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good piece of advice. What what um what in terms of what you've done, is there any specific examples of times where maybe you have intentionally done something good, but unintentionally maybe not people haven't liked what you've done, and how do you deal with that sort of thing? Is there any tips and advice for people around that?
I can think of one that's present that we changed our entire practice management system that we use, our computer system within the firm. And it was all picked by the staff. We had representatives, they picked it. I didn't pick it. IT and director and innovation didn't pick it either. And you get teething problems because it's something new. And unintended consequences that some people are very upset because it's a big change. It's much better now because we've had it for a few months and getting used to it. But I've put it, it's a bit like you have an old pair of slippers and you wear them and they're moth-eaten and they've got holes in them, but you know you've got to get rid of them at some point. You did that with our old system. You put a new pair on, but they pinch a bit and it takes a while for you to wear them in, but then they're much better and it's an upgrade and they don't smell and they haven't got the holes and there's all you can go further with them. That I think has been the one that comes to mind the most. There's been so many over the years that I've done, but that's the one that's come to mind at the minute.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's such a great. I might use that. I might nick that from you.
Feel free.
Yeah, because it's so true, isn't it? Like you do something, and even though from what you're saying, it sounds like your staff chose that based on what they felt would be most helpful, and then they end up not being happy with it because it's different and all that stuff. So, yeah, even with your best intentions, people still are unhappy with those things. When it comes to client side, I'd be interested on that. Um, how do you deal with that with clients where sometimes you can't always please a client and still being able to be happy and confident in the decision you've made because you know it's the best decision for you guys while also trying to provide a best solution to your clients as well.
I've been fortunate that there have been very few clients where we've had to say, look, this isn't working, goodbye. We've always tried to find a way. Some people, no matter where they are in the world or what they do, they just want to pick a fight. It's in their nature. And it's having the ability to recognize that some things just can't be rescued and some things you have to walk away from. But I've always found that if you're open with clients and actually say, look, yeah, we've made a mistake, we're not perfect. And so whenever I've had issues of service rather than calling them complaints in my career, I've always found it's just been communicating. And I remember we had an issue a few years ago where something had gone wrong with the payment. It was to do with us, it was to do with the bank. There was about 14 different people involved in it, but we were taking the brunt of it. And I just took it on and called the client every half an hour. And someone said to me, "Why are you calling them every half an hour?" I went, "They can't call anyone else in the meanwhile, and eventually they'll get sick, because angry people will only calm down. They can't stay angry all of the time." And I've always found, someone told me that 20 odd years ago, and it always resonated and it stuck with me. Just keep communicating, and eventually they'll realize. And also, if you say you're going to call them every half an hour, and you do for the first couple of hours, you've kept your promise.
Yeah. 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 It's about rebuilding that trust element, isn't it? Because it's been broken a bit and you're just rebuilding
Yeah.
that up again. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Um, one of the things I'd love to dive in a little bit deeper with you, and it's to do with your tagline. You finding those, improbable solutions to these seemingly impossible challenges that people are having. Um, it sounds amazing, and I think everyone wants to do that in their business. What are some tips that you've found that really helps to be able to do that for clients?
Particularly in the law, lawyers tend to be very conservative with a small c, and they don't like risk. And I'm, as
Hmm.
managing partner, part of my many hats that I have to wear is managing risk. But if you, part of managing risk is knowing what the risk actually is. And the solution to most problems is there. I always like to say, and I've pinched it from someone else, is that there isn't a problem that can't be solved by another human being apart from death. And I'm working on that. And there's always a solution. The problem is it might not be the solution. The problem to the problem might be that the solution isn't palatable to everyone, but there is always a solution. It normally involves people or money or both. That solves most problems. And if you keep those in mind and also have the mindset at the outset that you're going to resolve the issue, I think that helps. A lot of people come up with this looks like an impossible problem. Well, it is if you make it impossible. If you start with the mindset of, I'm going to make it possible and this is going to happen. I don't like quoting Elon Musk, but he said, I'm going to put men on Mars. He decided that's what he's going to do. That's his mindset. He's going to do it. I suspect that he and the US government will get around to it at some point, or someone somewhere will, because there's that challenge out there. But their mindset is, we are going to do it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, a little bit different question, and I know that we were talking just before we started this. You've got multiple locations that you have throughout the UK, and I'd love to just understand, even if you have an example of this, what's one of the biggest challenges that you faced in your business that at the time you're like, oh God, this is horrible, but it actually ended up being one of the biggest blessings in disguise for you?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily my current business, but I just give the example of some people I was just in a meeting with, that one of my best clients became a friend. And it started with, he called me 20 years ago, and I was doing a lot of work referred by a particular developer, and they'd accidentally put my details down on his reservation form rather than the solicitor he'd asked. It wasn't down to me, it was down to them. And he came on the phone shouting and screaming, literally, I don't know who you are, this is terrible, I'm really sorry it's happened. And he said, well, I'm in Southampton where I happened to be working at the time tomorrow. I said, well, I know you've got your own solicitor, but if you want to come in for a cup of coffee, have a cup of coffee and have a chat, and I can make it up to you, give you a free cup of coffee. When I will. So he came in, and I didn't intend to sell him my services, but I did. I've done loads for him over the years. I thought about employing him. He's referred loads of work to me. We're friends now because it all came from that conversation, because I was prepared to go, well, actually, I'm sorry. I was accepting responsibility for someone taking my name in vain, and it's worked that way. And I think we've seen that across our office network, that we've seen that if you're prepared to put your hands up and go, actually, I'm sorry, lawyers are trained not to say sorry because it's an admission of liability. But it's not. It's just actually accepting that you're sorry that someone feels that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love that perspective because as I'm hearing you say these things, when I do speak, whether it's on this podcast or just people as well, the I'm always curious from a solicitor standpoint because I know that risk is quite they're averse to it and very careful with the language they use. I totally understand why and all of that. What do you think there's the risk side of things, not only for maybe law firms and solicitors, but for other business owners as well? What's the biggest thing that you found helps you to deal with those risks to be able to help you grow and not be so adverse to them where it stifles where you're wanting to actually develop your business towards?
That's a very, very good question. And I would say that the biggest thing for dealing with risk is actually appreciating what the risk is and what the consequences are if you breach that risk. And that most lawyers, they go, right, there's the line. I'm going to keep well away from the line. Well, actually, if you understand the line better, it's all about understanding the problem. I'm not saying you never cross the line, but you get closer to it so you can have a proper look at it. And if you inspect it closely, you will find a solution to that problem. Because there's rules and regulations for a reason. I'm a lawyer at heart. I have to appreciate them.
Yeah.
But you've got some people go, oh, it's too risky, I won't do it, without actually knowing what the risk is. And it's knowing the risk.
I love that. I love that. If I'm hearing what you're saying is don't just make an assumption because there's an element of risk and thinking that don't do it. It's understanding the risk so you can make an educated decision on what the best action is to take. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think with the advent of AI, my industry, and I use the word industry because everyone likes to use profession, but it's an industry because it involves other people. So an industry involves more than one sort of body in it. AI will probably come up with things where it goes like, this is the risk of taking this matter on, whatever it is. The risk is 80%. And and it'll checked it all through and goes, there's a 20% chance that there's a problem, but there's an 80% chance it's okay. I suspect that in some point in the future, my industry will buy its professional indemnity insurance based on the level of risk they're prepared to take. Because AI will assess things and then the human being will put their input in. And other lawyers won't like to hear this because they think they're infallible and you've got to have human beings. But I always remember seeing on LinkedIn, someone was boasting how someone had used an AI checking tool on a lease and it had missed something and they thought they were very clever. And I thought, well, all you've done is you've done the AI checking tools business. You've done them a favor because you pointed something new out they wouldn't have thought out before. It's now in the algorithm and they're rubbing their hands with glee.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it's such great points you're making there, Paul, because um, whether people are lawyers, solicitors, and where they're just more adverse to risk because of the nature of what you do, or just business owners in general, looking to grow, but just thinking, oh, if I make this choice, what I think people tend to look at the negative and they think, well, there is a negative, so I'm just not going to do it. But they don't understand the risk reward element of that. As long as it's legal, of course. I mean, you don't want to
Yeah,
do,
of course, as long
you
as
know,
it's legal.
but that risk reward element is really, really key to start understanding. And I don't think a lot of business owners really understand that.
Most businesses in the UK and probably around the world don't go beyond £750,000 worth of revenue because they get to that sort of level and it becomes a lifestyle business. And they think, oh, if I have to invest in the business, I won't go past that. And so you've got these jump numbers that are proven that you go up to certain levels and certain amounts of revenue, and you go, well, actually, I don't want to go that take the next step because I'll drop money. So I'd rather just be comfortable here. But if you want
Yeah,
to grow, there is pain from growing and development,
yeah.
and it's not a risk. The risk is if you stay small.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Well, over the next 5 years, because we're pretty much up on time here, but over the next 5 years, what are your goals with your business? What are you wanting to do with it?
I want to grow. Well, it's not I because it's not my business.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am. I always say that everyone within the business has a part of the business, whether they're an owner or not. And our aim is to become in the top 100 law firms within the country. Now that's a revenue number, but it gives you protection because then you're in the top 100. And there's lots of benefits to the staff as well because it's not a money thing per se. It's about growth, and
Mm,
it's better to have a vision that you can all buy into, and it's quite a simple vision that we call it Route 100. And I also don't put a time frame. You said 5 years, fantastic. If we do it in 5, I think it'll take longer than that. But as long as we can see the growth and that people are buying into it, and also there's a chance for people to progress, because I think it's great. You want people that are actually moving forwards, because if you're not going forwards, you're standing still, and that's the same with going backwards.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. And I love having such a big vision and goal. And yeah, whether you hit it in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's such an incredible vision. So, Paul, listen, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. As a reminder for everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. It's Jason A. Osborn on LinkedIn, and it'll be in the show notes. And until next episode, we'll chat to you guys later. Cheers.